Okay, our first speaker probably needs no introduction to at least half of you, but since half of you are here for the first time and maybe haven't been to ASA meetings before and don't know all the people who are very active, Loren Haarsma is a very, very active member in ASA, has been for many years. He's a professor of physics at Calvin College, and before that, or Calvin University now? Or is it? Calvin College, okay. So some college is content to call itself a college. So many call themselves universities when they really aren't, just because it's trendy, and I appreciate Calvin if that's their self-designation, and they're happy to stick with it, Calvin College, where he teaches physics. He has an active research program there. He got his PhD from Harvard, and also is married to a scientist who many of you know, Deborah, who is on the program Friday, the workshop, if you were here for the half-day workshop, and works in astronomy. So we're very happy to have Loren come. Let me go ahead and introduce Bruce. We're glad that Bruce is here with us to fill in for Steve Meyer. I think most of you met Bruce yesterday afternoon, at least know a little bit about his background. He actually taught at Baylor at one time and is a person whose background is, he has a strong scientific background, but I think his PhD work is more in philosophy of science, if I'm not mistaken. And he therefore covers a broad spectrum of understanding science, but understanding a lot of philosophy, which many scientists don't. So we're very, very pleased that he can be here as a stand-in for Steve Meyer. Steve Meyer sends his apologies. His son was found to have a very critical heart problem. His son's 12 years old. This was last Saturday. And they have some family urgencies and emergencies connected with that have prevented him from being here. But I think he and Bruce have had a chance to talk at length about... Not at length, okay. I think he had prepared a lot of his stuff, and so Bruce is, I think, primed to be Steve Meyer, okay, more or less, okay? Less, but not a whole lot less. Let's be optimistic, okay? I think this is going to be a great time. Loren, come on up and get us started on this discussion.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Could I have two volunteers take the stack of handouts right there and pass them out, and then when any leftovers, when you get to the end, just put them on chairs by the door for people who walk in late. This is not my PowerPoint. That's Bruce's. So while the handout is going around, by way of introduction, certain criticisms of intelligent design and theistic evolution are frequently repeated, and if you're on certain email lists, you've probably heard them many, many times. And I think that these criticisms often arise from common oversimplifications and misunderstandings of intelligent design and theistic evolution. So our goal is to promote more nuanced and accurate understandings of these. Now I'm going to start by laying out some traditional theological points regarding God's governance of nature, points which I think almost all ID advocates and almost all theistic evolution advocates would agree. So on your handout up at the top, common theology of God's governance of nature. First, matter, energy, space, time are not co-eternal with God. God created them out of nothing. Second, God designed the properties of matter, energy, space, and time and the fundamental laws of nature so that these natural mechanisms built into the universe would accomplish God's desired outcomes. Third, natural laws and matter, energy, and space and time do not now exist independently of God. Rather, God continually sustains the natural world in existence moment by moment. Fourth, created things have real creaturely cause and effect powers granted by God, but God also concurs with natural cause and effect. Nothing can take place apart from God's will or without God's cooperation with the created world. Now, this view is sometimes called concurrence. It's probably the most common view among both intelligent design and theistic evolution advocates. There's another traditional Christian view called occasionalism, which maintains that created things do not have their own cause and effect powers, but whatever happens is directly caused by God. Creaturely actions are merely the occasions of divine activity. Now, both concurrence and occasionalism are compatible with both ID and TE, so I just include them both here for the sake of completeness. Fifth, God is not only sovereign over scientifically predictable natural events, but also over scientifically unpredictable or random events. You can think of Proverbs 16:33, the lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord. Now, this is relevant to evolutionary biology because mutations, natural disasters, and other natural mechanisms important for evolution include elements which are scientifically unpredictable. And it's also relevant for other scientific fields, like meteorology, ecology, developmental biology, pathology, where important natural mechanisms include elements which are scientifically unpredictable. Of views not between ID and TE, but within each view. Regarding these scientifically unpredictable events, some would say God chooses the outcome of every single scientifically unpredictable event. Some would say that while God could choose the outcome of every event, God chooses instead to grant creation the freedom to be itself and explore through random processes some of the possibilities built into it. God knows the range of possibilities. God knows that these processes will produce an outcome within the range of his will. And some would advocate an intermediate view between these two, saying God doesn't directly choose the outcome of every scientifically unpredictable event, but does so occasionally at strategic or important points to ensure particular things happen. Sixth, whether or not God chose to miraculously supersede natural laws during pre-human biological history, God definitely acted miraculously and in special revelatory ways in human history. Now, okay, these points aren't agreed on by everyone, aren't even necessarily every Christian, but these theological beliefs are shared by many advocates of intelligent design and many advocates of theistic evolution. They're going to form a common basis from which we'll carry out today's discussion. Now, I'm going to talk briefly about intelligent design, but then turn it over to Bruce Gordon to do most of it. He'll talk briefly about theistic evolution and hand it off to me. Since the term intelligent design is used in a variety of ways, I should define how I'm going to use it. I'm not referring to cosmological or fine-tuning arguments of design. I'm not referring to so-called rare earth arguments. I'm not referring to arguments which point to the natural world and make an intuitive argument towards apparent design and how everything fits together in a way that could be compatible with biological evolution. All these are sometimes discussed under the banner of ID, and for today I'm going to leave those aside and focus on what I believe is a primary source of contention. I'm going to use ID in what I believe is the most common use of the term, the one that causes the most debates. Intelligent design is a set of beliefs and arguments that the development of first life, plus some subsequent novel developments and increases in biological complexity during pre-human biological history, cannot be explained via natural evolutionary mechanisms alone, and is best explained in terms of some intelligent agent acting during biological history in ways beyond ordinary evolutionary mechanisms. Now, as I say, in recent years, certain criticisms of ID have been frequently repeated in books, articles, blogs, emails. I've heard them many times, and I believe they're unfair because they oversimplify ID theory and because they're overgeneralized to apply to all ID advocates, and I'm calling them myths about ID. Number one, intelligent design just isn't science. Number two, intelligent design is a science stopper. Myth 3, intelligent design is just creationism in disguise. Myth 4, intelligent design has a theology of God of the gaps or episodic deism. Now, these myths are common because, let's be honest, several of them are in fact true about some ID writings and some ID advocates some of the time. But they are not intrinsically or necessarily true about ID theory, and I say it's false. At times, it's literally bearing false witness to say or imply that these are always true about all ID advocates. Now, considerable energy has been spent debating should ID be considered scientific. I believe these debates about what is science and what isn't have been unproductive because intelligent design as a whole package is partly scientific, partly philosophical, partly religious. There's various ways to separate the claims. On your handout is a way I personally like to do it. There's a scientific claim. It's extremely improbable that first life could have self-organized via known natural processes. It's extremely probable that certain subsequent increases in biological complexity could have evolved via known natural processes. There's what I would call a philosophical claim. Some would like to say, well, it's mostly scientific. I'm going to call it philosophical for now. It goes like this. Many events are improbable without being intelligently designed, but some events are both improbable and intelligently designed. If the preceding scientific claim is true, then life and biological complexity have other features which make the most reasonable explanation for their existence that